I'd not been feeling well, so I visited my doctor. After examining me, he had a very serious and concerned look on his face. I asked, "What is it?" After adjusting the bone through his nose, he explained, "Onga bunga bunga in your binga banga banga." Fearfully I pleaded, "English! I only understand English." Rubbing his chin thoughtfully, he concluded with authority, "Jim, your leg is haunted." "My leg is haunted?" At this point, many of you are completely shocked, appalled, and apoplectic. In this day and age, how could I accept such a diagnosis from my witch doctor? Why, of course, this story isn't true. However, I told it to introduce something so shocking and disturbing that no one would dare to make it up. Proof positive that public school teachers are idiots. This video is rated W for witches. This is actually an old story, which occurred about 10 years ago. December 1999, Brandi Blackbear, a 15-year-old girl, was suspended from school for 15 days. Her offense? The school suspended her for being a witch. Worse, she had cast a spell on one of her teachers that made him so ill that he was hospitalized. In Oklahoma, they will not suffer witchery. After the teacher's illness, the school's assistant principal, Charlie Bushyhead, questioned the student about a library book that she had read about Wiccan beliefs. He concluded that she had cast a spell on the ill teacher and that she was an immediate threat to the school, and suspended her for being disruptive to the education process. Although she sued the school over the suspension and to recover confiscated notebooks containing her non-school related creative writing, the judge ruled in favor of the school. Apparently, it is not arbitrary and capricious for a school official to suspend a student suspected of sickening their teacher by casting a spell. I guess the Crucible is not on the required reading list in Oklahoma public schools. In case you suspect that I am making up the Blackbear story, you can read the ACLU press release on the sidebar. Also, in 2006, this case was dramatized in a movie titled Not Like Anyone Else. The rest of this video is definitely NC-18, so kids dismissed. There's no profanity or sex, just essential integrations to follow. Okay, so what are the important issues here? As illustrated by the obscenely absurd case of expelling a student for being a spellcasting witch. 1. There are no checks on government power in education. And 2. Public school teachers are detached from reality. As a caveat, I am speaking from the U.S. experience, and schools elsewhere are hopefully far superior. On the first point, the courts have abdicated their responsibility to be a check upon executive power, especially when it comes to schools. This is not a new problem. As far back as the Gobitis decision in 1940, the court deferred to public schools' compelling orthodoxies on those that acted upon minority opinions. This deference resulted in mob violence against dissenters, including stoning, kidnapping, beating, and castration. As a consequence of the violence, the Supreme Court reversed itself in West Virginia Board of Education versus Barnett, 1943, to recognize a qualified individual right to refuse compelled speech in public school. It seems that the only time the courts take claims of a school violating the rights of a student seriously is when that student is physically harmed directly by an agent of the school or as a consequence of a public policy. Hence, a teacher can rape a student's mind, but not their body. I invite contradicting facts in the comments, as I hope that I exaggerate. Recently, the situation has become even worse, as appellate courts have ruled that parents do not have a fundamental right to oversee the education of their children, which empowers the legislative majority to dictate any educational policy they choose without being subject to judicial review. At this point, the only recourse a parent having a minority opinion has is to move out of the jurisdiction, unless, of course, the legislature decides to prohibit that as well. I see a Berlin Wall-style blockade in California's future. On the second point, teachers are trained to be stupid because they are taught to reject reality. Witches. Spellcasting. Really? Explain that in a way that does not make educrats look like incompetent fools. Getting rid of public schools will not reverse the damage that's already been done by public teachers' colleges. Private schools hire from the same cesspool. A loving parent, in touch with reality and without any certified training, is more competent than most professionally trained teachers. On YouTube, Mr. Cropper is an excellent example of a rigorous effort to develop new effective methods and curricula for instruction. How to explain briefly the corrosive effect that pragmatism has had on American education. It rejects man's nature by being anti-conceptual. For example, see the experiential education movement. It rejects the efficacy of man's senses to experience actual reality. Consequently, it follows a rationalistic method of instruction detached from both reality and an integrated conceptual framework. By training, public school teachers have the skills and morals of concentration camp guards. Ordered to not physically abuse the inmates, they pursue their intellectual and spiritual destruction instead. To make matters worse, these teachers are so dull-witted and unfit for real jobs that they do not even understand the consequences of their actions. They are only following orders. Those public school teachers with fewer intellectual handicaps may be able to identify the consequences of their incompetence. However, having rejected conceptual integration, they cannot connect the dots to their own culpability. I speak about American public school teachers generally. There are individual public school teachers who are exceptional, and I know some of them. The Blackbear witch suspension is an extreme case representing a systematic defect. Recognizing that our public school teachers have a problem is the first step in fixing America's education system.